So I'm going to do a video on this guy, Damien Fowkes, who I was next door to in Wakefield CSC unit. And I'm going to do this because there's been a couple of high-profile nonces taken out of the game in Wakefield recently. And you go on the Facebook news groups and stuff, and it will say things like, all heroes don't wear capes and give these guys early release. And when some people, I don't agree, because I think it's just a case of killing two birds with one stone. Because in the case of Ian Watkins, one of the guys who did it was a wrong in himself. And the other one, well, they didn't see anything wrong with what he was in for because they were on a wing with him for quite a while and were happy selling him drugs. And I think it's the same with Damien Fowkes, because when he did the Ian Huntley slashing and then went on to kill a paedophile called Colin Hatch in Full Sutton, he used to get a lot of fan mail and things from all kinds of women all over. But just because someone takes out a pedo, it don't mean he's some kind of hero. I just see it as, like I said, killing two birds with one stone, because it ensures one paedophile's never going to get out, and the guy who's done it, well, he's never getting out either. So yeah, it's two birds with one stone. So I'm going to give a little bit of a background into Damien Fowkes. One, he's a snitch. He was on the witness protection programme in about 2002, which was part of the Woodhill CSC unit, where it was completely separate, and they didn't even get the food from the kitchen. The police paid for all the food, and they used to deliver it to the unit every week. And even the staff didn't even know the names. They were called Joe Bloggs 1, Joe Bloggs 2, and that was apparently only the CM or PO as it was then, and above could know their real identities. I know this because I found some paperwork in what used to be the old cage underground in Wakefield CSC unit. They used it as just a storeroom for various kinds of stuff. But we don't use any of the old cages anymore, the two underground ones. They built a gym in front of it, and I think they've extended those now to like some kind of PlayStation room or something. But I was in Wakefield at the time, but only stopping off while waiting to be assessed for Franklin's DSPD unit. But because I wasn't exceptional risk, I wasn't on a 6-man unlock. So when I was in the gym, I just said to the screws, had to be sat outside, I need to go to the toilet. So he's just let me in the old cage because there was a toilet in there. So while I was having a shit, I just rooted around through all the paperwork. And I found all kinds of stuff, but I never kept it. And there was so much in there, I thought I'll try and do it again. But I never. This was around 2006. I think I was on accumulated visits at the time. But I wouldn't meet Damien Fowkes until I was in Wakefield, like I said, being assessed for the CS unit, which was about 2011. But on the surface of it, I got on. I didn't like him. I didn't like Damien Fowkes. I found him very bit childish and very gullible. And at some point, he became a Muslim. I'm not sure if he was a Muslim when he was on the wing in Franklin. He was on the VP wing in Franklin's, and he's gone to see a listener. I remember him telling me this. He's seen a listener a few times. Ian Huntley worked as the cleaner in the healthcare, so no one really could get to him. Ian Huntley on the numbers would just get done in by someone looking to like redeem themselves for hitting the back door. So he's gone to see him deliberately with the intention of getting Ian Huntley. We used to lock him up when people used to come to see listeners, but they just got caught slipping, and he said he went down a few times with a blade and he slashed him. And then, but what happened after that, he's gone to Full Sutton, and he's been in the seg for ages, and he's saying he can't go on the main, he has to go on the VP wing, and he wouldn't let him go on the VP wing, and I think he's in the block for 6 months, I think he said, in Full Sutton. And that's when he's gone on to, they finally let him go on the nonce wing, and within a short period of time, he's kidnapped this Colin Hatch, who was an absolute dirty, horrible paedophile, and taking him out of the game. And that's when he's come to Wakefield on remand, and he was on the other side, and then he's come next door to me, and he used to get letters off all kinds of women, and he used to put them to visit because he was Cat A, to get cleared for visits, and they always getting refused, and he used to start cutting his face open all the time because he got refused visits clearance. But because he was very impressionable, and some terrorist called Tanveer Hussain came down the block, and he was a very influential amongst the Muslims. He was a bit of a character, and you could just see the way he was manipulated, and Damien Fowkes, the way he wanted to impress him, and people like Gary Nelson was there. But Gary Nelson's, I think he's a decent guy. He's not going to manipulate or take advantage of a weak-minded individual like Damien Fowkes. He just tolerated him. I think he knew he was an idiot, but he was always nice to him. He always treated him well, always sent him like whatever he needed. But he was so keen to impress Tanveer Hussain. He used to go on the yards, and he went to court once, and when they asked him to, what's his name or date of birth, he just said Allahu Akbar, and he was coming on the yard, said, Tanveer Hussain, I went to court and said Allahu Akbar, like he'd just achieved something amazing. And it actually was reported in a small article in a newspaper, and someone said it was in the paper, and he was always like, I need that newspaper, make sure I get that newspaper. And then that Tanvir Hussein said, now what you want to do next time when you go to court is say, I do not recognise this court, I only recognise a Sharia court. And he's like, yeah, I'll say that next time. And I could see that's where the manipulation begins. He knows he's got him then. He knows he's got him by, he can get him to do anything he wants. And Damien Fowkes thinks he's rising up the hierarchy by doing all these things, but he's not. He's just being a useful idiot. And sometimes, eventually, after that, I've seen it with loads of people who become Muslim and get manipulated. And where it usually ends is something like, oh, this guy was playing music during prayers, go and throw this hot water over him, or go and stab him, go and shank him up or something. And I've seen that done quite a few times. But Damien Fowkes would later get his throat cut in Whitemore CSC unit by this guy, Kevin McCarthy, who I've never met, never even heard of him. But the one case what came out of this was when the first officer on the scene to pull him off was a guy called Alex Stewart. He's a veteran. People might know him from Feltham in the 80s and 90s or from Whitemore. Big old Scottish guy with a big white redneck style moustache. But he was actually a decent guy. But he died before he could give evidence. He made a statement and it was read out in court. And I remember the newspaper said the judge praised him for his bravery and being first on the scene to tackle a guy with a blade. And I think that's all I've got to say about him. And as far as I'm aware, he's still in the units knocking around now.